Today's date is January 20th, 2018. Hello and welcome to episode 20 of Hit the Books podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Holcomb.
And I'm Emery Saunders.
And we're here to give you all the saucy deets on everything comics this week. For those of you unfamiliar with the show, this is our weekly podcast that premieres every Wednesday, where we talk to you about the latest comic book news. We talk to you about the new releases coming out to your local comic book shops on Wednesday. And then we talk about two topics of our choosing for your amusement. And if we have a guest, their topic as well.
Oh, yeah. Much amusement to be had.
Oh, yes. So, without further ado, Emery, what have you been reading? Yeah, you know what? Before we get in, we have to talk about this anyway. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just going to get into it.
Yeah, let's get straight into it.
Our last episode ruffled a few feathers. Now, in some ways, it was annoying, but in some ways, it was good because it gave us free publicity, I guess. But
I relished every single second of it.
As you know, if you watched episode 19 or listened to it, again, we're on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, whatever. Probably SoundCloud soon once I get around to it.
Coming to more avenues as time goes on.
Basically, we responded to a tweet from Scott Snyder, who called out a particular Vice writer named Nick Gazin, who had posted an article for Vice saying, the top 10 comics of 2017, your typical thing, but then the bold head subtitle was something along the lines like 2017 wasn't a great year for comics. In fact, I couldn't even come up with 10, and I quote, good, not great, not high level, not masterful, good comics for 2017. Now, you and I both know that's not true, especially when we read 100 different titles on the new releases every week.
Oh, yeah. This was an incendiary remark made by this guy.
So we weren't even going to do this, but in response, we decided to do our top 10 comics of 2017. Again, we were only working from August, so if your book wasn't being published before that, we probably didn't read it.
Yeah.
At least if we did, we didn't review it and everything. And then, there's plenty of titles we didn't even touch because we just don't have the money to buy every single title and read every single issue of everything. So, and even then, we still had a pretty easy time naming comics. And I just wanted to add one to consideration, a comic I picked up this week, which is issue number 1 of Sacred Creatures, which I think is on its 4th issue now. By Pablo Raimondi and Klaus Janson. Now, this book, it sucks that I read this literally the week after we did our top 10 list, because I think I would have added this one to the list instead of one of the others.
Is that right?
Now, that's assuming, it continued to be good. Yeah.
That it's good now as it was with this first issue.
But this first issue was a big mega-sized type of issue. It had really thick. It was basically like a typical volume by itself. That's what it felt like. It's a thick book, and it's only it's $5. So you definitely got your money's worth. The art was fantastic. The writing was great, and I'm gonna pick up issue 2 as soon as I can if I can find it. Seems pretty popular, and I'm glad I finally got around to it because it has a really cool, fun premise where it seems like this group of ancient beings or gods or something just kind of live among us, and every once in a while they reunite to do something or take care of something. And in this case, there's this kind of like a manipulation, and you follow this just nobody guy that just gets kind of sucked into it. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. I love the premise, and hopefully it stays strong, so I'll keep reading it. So just want to shout out Sacred Creatures by Pablo Raimondi and Klaus Janson. Sorry you guys didn't make the list, but if I had read it literally like a week sooner, you probably would have made the list. But anyway, we ruffled some feathers because I guess through the grapevine, either through Scott Snyder or somebody else, Nick Gazin saw it and for some reason cared. I don't know why, but it's not like our audience is that big. But for some reason he cared, and so he responded. See, even you couldn't come up with 10 good titles. Now, at first I was like, okay, maybe he just had like a dopey moment. I've been there. Maybe he just didn't count right. And or option number 2, he's setting up to be a complete dick and respond
with
None
something
of
even
those
more
titles were good or
douches.
something
Yeah.
along those lines. And I knew it was going to be one of the two. And so just like as innocently as I could, I responded with the list in numbered order, in the order that we talked to, not how good they were in the list. It was just a random, assortment. But I listed the 10 just to show that there was 10, and Scott Snyder replied to it or something. And then Nick Gazon, sure enough, replied, "See, it's harder than you think. I only see 2 good comics on that list." So, and at that point, it told me everything I needed to know about this guy. So I didn't respond any further because it wasn't worth pursuing. But it just seems kind of gross that this guy who works for a news company that is good. I like a lot of what Vice does, especially their Viceland documentaries. They're so fun. And granted, they speak to a very particular aesthetic of people, but it's still great content and one of the more, not invigorating, maybe refreshing sources for any kind of news or, real stories.
This seems like a case of there's always going to be a bad apple in the bunch.
Yeah, so for me, I don't take anything back about what I criticized Nick Gazon for, because if you watch the video, we did split it off so you can watch it without watching the entire podcast again. So if you go to our
Right.
YouTube channel, you can see Best Comics of 2017 from Hit the Books Podcast or whatever. In that episode, I started off trying to be as I don't know, politically correct as I could, but then at the end of the episode I just kind of went all out because it was 4 a.m. and I was tired and angry and I got myself worked up talking about it. So then I started calling out, criticizing him and Vice. Now the criticism of him I would have taken back if not for his asshole reply where again puts the entire industry on blast. Hundreds of comics every week, and you couldn't find 10.
Right.
Not great, but good comics. Come on, man. How much validation do you need in your life?
I could understand being upset at Marvel,
Yeah.
even in some cases DC, but Image?
Yeah, but by proxy,
Oh my God.
I also said this shit is bullshit from Vice or whatever. It's not Vice's fault. It's this one specific writer. I want to make that clear right now. If that eventually gets more attention for any reason, I'm not angry at Vice. I'm angry at this particular writer for putting entire industry and all these creators and artists and letterists and all these hardworking people on blast,
Yeah.
And again, you and I haven't been super thrilled with what Marvel's been doing and what DC's main lines have been doing.
Right.
The main storybooks, which we'll talk about in our Did the Content Match the Drapes today.
Yeah.
But-
there's plenty of room for that.
But on the stuff that isn't mainstream universe, Marvel, DC, there's a lot of great stuff, whether it's outside the major companies, going into Image and Boom and Dynamite and IDW and whatever else, Scout Comics even. And then within the company, you got things like Batman White Knight, Mr. Miracle, and then Nightwing The New Order, and Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, which are expanding on old established universes, but in their own unique direction and way. So just wanted to get that out there before we get into everything. Now we can get into what you've been reading.
Did read that. I got to read issue 1 of Damage.
Which is the first issue of the New Age of DC Heroes movement that they've been advertising constantly.
Yeah.
And now they're actually getting TV ads. Apparently they bought a bunch of TV ads to advertise the New Age of DC Heroes. Again, something we've been applauding because what they're doing is taking, kind of characters that haven't received much love and brand new characters that are diverse and giving them their own lines and committing to them.
Right.
Great. But
With that being said,
there needs to be some quality control.
Right. The thing with comics like this is that it's very easy to approach this type of story in one specific way. Specifically, the kind of way that people would expect you to take with it, which I'm going to say it makes sense. It's unfortunate that there wasn't more of a twist or a turn with this one, but I'll give it the second or maybe even third issue to see where it goes. I'm hoping that it's not just a rip of the Hulk.
Now, for me, this book, not strong coming out the gate for two reasons. One is nothing really happens.
Right.
The entire book is over an hour. Like an hour of time is what comprises this entire book.
Yeah, it's a lot of dialogue and assuming that things happened off screen.
Yeah, and then that's the second problem I had with it, is apparently this character appeared in the Dark Knight's Metal event, which, again, I haven't read it, completely judging a book by its cover, but the more stuff that comes out of it, the more I hate it. Because the stuff that comes out of it is lacking severely in quality and logic.
It's just the premise alone is... Unfortunately, it's been a turnoff because that premise is more Batman.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that premise is.
You want Bat Green Lantern and Bat Aqua Woman and Bat
just
Superman thing?
just stick a bat on just everything. Just Bat Superman. How about that?
Yeah, so that just makes me think they're running out of ideas for this new post-convergence universe.
With that said, I want to see what Silencer is all about, because that one actually looks like it'd be...
Yeah, the Silencer looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Even the Terrifics, I love Mr. Terrific. I just wish they would rename him because the name is so goofy and silly.
Right.
But now, like, seeing where they're trying to do with the Terrifics as a team book with lesser-known heroes like Metamorpho and stuff, I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how it turns out, but I'm hoping. I have hope.
I have suspicions.
The Fantastic Terrifics, perhaps?
I mean, there's 4 of them. They're all about science. They got a stretchy guy. They got a girl. They got a big dude. And does one of them set themselves on fire? Not yet.
That's for the finale.
Ah, shit.
So yeah, Damage, not a great start, but also not a terrible start either. It's very much middle of the ground. And if you're familiar with the Dark Knight's Metal thing where he appeared, I'm not. Maybe you'll like it more. But basically the premise is this guy was a weapon. He was a soldier who was taken in to become a weapon with the idea that he was going to stop bloodshed on the battlefield by becoming the only weapon on the battlefield. And when we say weapon... That's what they call him.
His name is actually Damage.
So which they allude to a lot. It's so cringeworthy. Some of that dialogue was, it was pretty
They don't
cringeworthy.
even allude to it. They just say it outright.
So apparently this colonel who created him, who seems like a female version of eye patch guy.
Fury.
Fury, thank you.
Yeah.
Nick Fury. This colonel seems like a female version of Nick Fury to me. But
Give it time. Maybe she'll shave her head.
But basically the comic book sets up this premise where this guy has become a weapon where he basically becomes the Hulk, where he can't control himself and he just destroys everything. Which is also worrisome because now we got the Terrifics kind of looking like the Fantastic Four, and now we got this guy who's apparently the Hulk, but he only lasts for an hour.
Right.
So he's like the Hulk, but a Hulk who needs Viagra.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot you could do in an hour.
But in terms of Hulk mode.
In terms of Hulk mode, yes, the Hulk lasts longer.
He doesn't have to consult his doctor if it lasts for more than 4 hours. We'll put it that way. But putting that aside,
Yep.
it talks about this pilot who we're just like, who? And makes a big deal about this pilot. And then at the end, it seems like this colonel is going to be butting heads with Amanda Waller.
Right.
Which does set up an interesting premise. We'll see, because I'm not too fond of the current Suicide Squad, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's just an excuse to put Harley in more books.
Maybe. Also, I really hope that they're not going to do a let's have like a random guy with blades coming out of his arms and throw him against this guy.
Yeah. And there's one character in this book. He's His name is Major Legit.
Or legit, depending on how you read it. It's legit.
I'm calling him legit. He's totally legit. And basically,
he's generally legit.
He will be eventually.
Give it time.
Yeah, once he gets promoted to General Legit. But our puns are so bad. I apologize.
I don't.
But this guy is like comically like jealous because he wants to be the fucking
He wants
monster.
to be the guy. He like this is classic.
He's like, I was the legit one. I should have been the guy. And then he goes and tries to fight him in a fucking mech suit because he wants to be the guy, and it's stupid. So, first issue,
I
not
thought
very
it was funny.
not very strong. Thought it was a little silly. Major Legit, dumb name. Especially for a jealous like guy.
I'm legit.
I'm a major. But even with all my seniority and experience, I wanted to be the weapon. I wanted to be the guy who gets deformed and fucks everything up and kills everybody.
But only for an hour.
So, I don't know. I think they're setting up a Hulk Abomination type thing.
We'll see.
That's what it seems like to me. It seems like the guy that becomes Abomination.
Yeah.
Next up, I think we both read Ice Cream Man from Image, number
We
1.
did.
This one from Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo. What did you think of it? I found a very quick analogy to a famous horror writer almost immediately.
I mean, it fits. Just lay it on him.
For me, it seemed like one of the book ideas that Stephen King wrote, and then because he never writes a second draft, just went and published. Which is not to say it's a bad book, but it's just like all over the place.
It is, and I gotta say there is definitely a Stephen King quality to it.
Yeah, it reeks of Stephen King to me. I don't know.
We all eat the cone down here, Chucky.
Yeah, it was fine. I probably won't pick up the second issue, but it was fine.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a fan of Stephen King, you'll probably love it. I'm not a big fan of Stephen King. Me personally, I find his stuff a little corny and not like, I don't know. I don't find his
hard
stuff
to get into.
I don't find his stuff actually scary. That's the biggest thing for me. I don't know.
Right.
It's supposed to be scary, but none of it scares me.
Right.
I'm like, that's just goofy.
This is the
Like,
kind
I don't
of,
care if this fucking car is haunted.
Yeah.
Why should I give a fuck? Like, I can walk into the wood line and it won't be able to get me.
This is the kind of book that I think would definitely appeal to like preteens. What I like to call the Goosebumps crowd.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the thing where it's not for the group that would actually like obviously think anyone should be able to kill this thing.
Yeah. Another book I read is Days of Hate.
I also read this book.
Chapter 1 of 12. Chapter 1 being subtitled America First. And you can probably guess what it's about. Apparently this is a few years in the future, and apparently because of the election and then Trump and all these terrible things that the Nazis have taken over, and now everybody's a white supremacist, and now there's concentration camps for everybody who isn't, and now there's terrorists that basically bomb the white supremacists and kill Nazis in their bars and stuff, and it's so all over the place.
It
seems
definitely paints groups in like broad and sweeping strokes.
Yeah, it seems like a paranoid, like ultra over the top progressive person's like wet dream of like a post-apocalyptic nightmare after Trump or something.
It
just seems.
That's almost exactly what this reads like.
Yeah, and I'm a pretty liberal guy. I think you are too. But this is just like, I was just like, my eyes were rolling so hard when I was reading this. I was like, oh my god, really?
Like, have my eyes spun around yet? They're just all the way in the back of my head.
Yeah. Which sucks because the actual character, the two main characters, these two women who were previously married and then divorced after a miscarriage thing or whatever,
Like
which
that-
somehow happened during this
that-
civil war.
That is an interesting golden nugget in the middle of this garbage heap of a story.
Yeah, that was actually interesting, and I wish
Yeah.
the story would have focused on that instead of
Yes.
all the nonsense around it. So
Yeah, that is what they needed to do. Like, I can understand world building, but if your world building is done in a way like specifically constructed to one, make it very clear where you stand politically, and two, make it very clear where you think the world's going to go if we keep going down the route that you don't like.
yeah,
It's very what's the word? The concept of making a comic book should be to make a story that appeals to as many people as possible. And this seems like it's only marketing to a very specific group of people. And there's something about that just it rubs me the wrong way.
yeah. Next up, I picked up a few of the issues. Trinity number 17 variant, where he's punching a fucking dinosaur. If you watched last week's episode, this was our bonus cover of the week because we usually have two, but I couldn't pass this one up because it's so ridiculous and awesome. I want to say it was Yannick Paquette who made this one. I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Yannick Paquette, though.
Yeah, spoiler alert. For that bonus one, the content definitely matches the drapes.
Wow. Was it a standalone story? I haven't read it.
It actually is the beginning of a new story.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I can read it then.
Yeah.
So it does match the drapes.
Oh, yeah.
It's Emery's seal of approval.
Oh, yeah.
All
It does some things that I didn't think that they were going to do with the story, given like what happens on the cover is very true to what happens on the inside. I mean, it is wild, let me tell you. And wild being probably the best operative word I could use for this book.
So I guess we'll give a shout out to James Robinson and artist Patch Zurcher, who have written Trinity number 17. So the content did match the drapes for Trinity. Next up,
Whoa!
it's always nice to hear, especially from the mainline books.
Oh, yeah.
Batgirl and the Birds of Prey. I'm pretty sure this one's also Yannick Paquette. If not, I'll write it on here. And this one, did you read this one?
I did.
Was it a standalone or was it part of an arc?
I think this is the beginning of a story in this case. I will say that the story itself didn't really grab me all that much. Like, I can't even remember half of what happens. And I'm not sure how much of that has to do with the costume design for Batgirl that still has my eyes rolling all the way in the back of my head.
Sucks.
I just
I know it made a big move when it first came out because it was something new, but it doesn't look good. Especially when you don't have that first artist with that cartoony style. It only looks good in that cartoony style. It doesn't look good
if you're like trying to take it serious. Yeah, it doesn't translate.
So that one does not get the content match the drape seal of approval. And then next up, Aquaman number 32. I want to say this one was... Damn, I'm an idiot. I should have wrote this stuff down. Oh, I can go to our website, www.htbvids.com, and find out.
Shameless plug.
So if you want to see our covers of the week, you can either click on the menu or you can go to htbvids.com /the year, and then based on that year, you can see all the covers of the year pop up right away, and you don't even have to navigate the menu. So htbvids.com, or excuse me, /2018. This one was, okay. Glad I looked it up. It was by Joshua Middleton, and the other ones were by Yannick Paquette. So,
yeah.
This one, I haven't read it because I'm not sure if it's part of a story arc or not. I think you read it, right?
I think it's in the middle of a story.
Okay. So we won't give our rating for this because it's in the middle of the story, and you probably need context. But I was very disappointed when I went to pick this up. This is not Joshua Middleton's fault. The problem is it looks like the color was super oversaturated when they printed this. Like even the Aquaman label doesn't look like the preview at all or look like the other books. It looks like super dark, like ink. Like they just oversaturated all the ink content.
Yeah, they left the ink on there too much.
And then there's issues with the actual construction. If you look on the binding, the ad is bleeding into the cover because they somehow, maybe they printed it too long, or there was a problem with the print press, or they just stapled them improperly in the machine. But the ad is bleeding into the front cover because the ad is extended all the way around the actual spine and into the front. So
that's definitely the printing company's issue at this point, which is unfortunate because I really like that cover.
Yeah, so that was pretty disappointing to see.
Although, ironically, how saturated the colors were on there, and like because of that, it gives the front cover like a weird like bend to it. Specifically, the kind of bend
it's like aqua distortion.
Yeah, it looks like someone like got it wet.
Yeah,
ironically,
Mara gets me wet. Oh yeah, but I will say this again. Haven't read it. No context. Emery read it, but we're not going to rate it based on context. I can say the illustration inside looks excellent.
It does. So, like the illustration pops. The story. This is the kind of Aquaman that you either love this kind of Aquaman or you're bored to death with this kind of Aquaman. This is Game of Thrones style, like court intrigue, trying to like manage allies and whatnot. Aquaman.
That's disappointing because for me personally, that's like the least interesting part of Aquaman. Usually, this one could prove me wrong. I could pick it up. I've heard a lot of good reviews about this run of Aquaman. So shout out to Riccardo Federici, the artist on the inside, because the art looks great. And Abnett is the one working on the story right now. So I'm actually gonna go back and get caught up on this one just because the art looks amazing, and this like kind of court intrigue actually looks like it might work just based on the panels I'm seeing. So I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna give it an honest chance. But yeah, super disappointing for the cover on number 32, which was one of our favorite covers that we've had in a long time. But it just, the way they printed it, just something went wrong. And that's not Joshua Middleton's fault at all. So just talk about that. Now for the big one that we both read, because it was an independent story. Nightwing number 37. As you know, I'm a big Nightwing guy, hence the shirt.
Yeah.
The cover is awesome. It looks even better in person than we thought.
It does.
So extra shout out to Jorge Jimenez because this cover looks fucking baller.
That pops. It's amazing.
And half of the artwork on the inside is great.
Only half.
And half of the story is serviceable because it doesn't really do much.
Only half.
The other half of the artwork and the other half of the story, which is flashbacks, is awful. It's so bad. It was so bad that it made me start to suspect that Jeff Johns is establishing an elaborate scheme to make Nightwing shit again so that he can kill him off without anybody crying about it.
It was like
how dare you?
He found a way to make you hate Nightwing.
So the main story and the main art, that is okay. Let me find the credits page because they can never consistently put the credits page. Sam Humphries is the modern writer. Klaus Janson is the flashback writer. Jamal Campbell is the present artist. And Alex Sinclair was the flashback artist. So the flashback story is so bad and so goofy and so terrible. The dialogue's bad, and like they have 3 characters that are just so ridiculous. And they spend the whole comic criticizing these criminals that are trying to prevent their casinos from opening. I don't know if you're familiar with the history of the casino, but that seems kind of antithetical.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, hold
But
on.
We see a character. I'm pretty sure all these characters are new and made up. We see a character called Baby Ruthless.
Yeah.
Baby being a play on Babe Ruth, I'm guessing, because she uses a baseball bat.
She's the most American.
Who is this casino-owning woman who fights crime in star-spangled pants, leggings, a halter top, and a baseball hat, and a baseball
Thanks, guys.
bat. So
This is what we wanted for our
that
Batman
was
comic.
goofy. And then there's this moment in the book, again, not good art. I mean, I hate saying this, but it's really bad. Where
I want to believe
Bat-
this is this person's first time.
Robin is being a bitch and hiding in a tree like a 10-year-old, bitching about how he fucked up, which he didn't really fuck up.
Yeah.
The fuck up was not a fuck up. The guy just got away.
Yeah.
Nobody died. Nothing got hurt.
It was like
The guy just kind of jumped ship and
his
got
fuck
away.
up was one of the possible outcomes of fighting crime.
Yeah.
Sometimes things just don't go your way.
And so he's in this fucking huge tree. Like, this tree is like the size of a fucking skyscraper, because Batman, who is like 6'4", like 200, 300 pounds of just pure muscle, is standing on the end of the branch. And the trunk is still like 3 times thicker than he is. And Robin, meanwhile, is standing on the other side. And it looks like they're standing at 2 ends of the Grand Canyon on this fucking tree that's just in the middle of the park. A, why did he go hide in a tree in the first place?
Because he's a bird.
B, oh yeah, they also had to make sure to show the robin eggs in the tree in the first panel of the tree scene. So all of that was just terrible. And then at the 2 characters at the end is King Sturgeon, who is a shark-headed mobster guy,
Right.
and his son, the Guppy. That's his mantra, the Guppy. And the final scene, this is not a spoiler because it's so fucking stupid. The end scene is the Guppy mourning over King Sturgeon, thank you, on his deathbed, as he has like a tube in his throat and he's in a hospital bed, and the crying shark-headed Guppy. It was so stupid. I expected that level of stupidity from the Aquaman book, not the Nightwing book. So
yeah, it was like, did we really just focus on an aquatic-based villain, or what should have been an aquatic-based villain for Nightwing?
So I think both the art and the story faults are both lie specifically in the flashback people.
Also, where the hell is Bloodhaven that they have trees that big?
I don't fucking know. I thought Bloodhaven was like somewhere in the Midwest or something.
That's what I would have assumed.
But yeah, so Trinity matched the drapes. Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, not bad, but not particularly memorable. And the Batgirl costume looks terrible when you're trying to do it in a non-cartoony fashion.
Yeah.
Aquaman, not giving the final rating yet until we catch up on the story arc, but it looks great. Illustration looks great. It looks like the dialogue looks good. It's like court intrigue, Game of Thrones level nonsense. And I don't like Game of Thrones. Spoiler alert, but I do.
This one might do it right for you.
If the book isn't about incestuous rape for half the book, then I'll probably like it. And then Nightwing is just awful. I hate saying that because I love Nightwing and I love this cover so much. The content did not match the drapes for Nightwing number 37, and it literally discouraged me from catching up on Nightwing, which I have been avoiding because I didn't like what they did with Convergence after they brought like 6 different Nightwings together, and the Titans Nightwing and the Grayson Nightwing, and then
it hurts.
So, and then the other book, as we talked about, Sacred Creatures number 1. which is just me catching up on old stuff. But it was really good, really good. And you read one other book, right?
I did. I actually read Phoenix Resurrection issue 2. And honestly, I gotta say that not a lot happened in that book. That book seemed like maybe 80% setup, 20% actually moving the plot along. And just
did we get any more people coming back from the grave again? Did it actually focus on Phoenix this time? That's what I'll say. 'Cause your criticism with the first issue was that it completely ignored Phoenix until the end.
Right. This one actually talks about Phoenix a lot, but it does it in, like, the X-Men that know that the Phoenix are coming, they're all doing this in third person, and there's an encounter with Magneto, and by Magneto, I mean old school, like, red and purple Magneto.
All right.
Not the more current... Really bringing it back, guys.
Not the black and white Magneto.
Yeah, which I gotta say that was a bold choice. I didn't hate it, but there's something about red and purple Magneto that just seems like, oh, there you've been all this time. This one,
hello, old friend.
God, I feel like Professor X. And this was the weird thing about it, is that spoiler. For some reason, in the middle of a fight, he has dialogue that makes it sound like he's ordering a drink. Specifically because there's another one of him somewhere actually ordering a drink.
Can we stop just putting the same versions of the same hero and villain in the same universe? Please.
But here's the thing. They're doing this weird thing where it's like, oh, they attack it, and then it disappears.
So what are they going to do with Logan and Old Man Logan, and X-23 Logan?
They're going to mash them all together.
Make them all kiss.
Oh.
No, kiss.
No. They already did that with Hawkeye and Hawkeye. I don't ever want to see that again. Ugh.
So, did you like it? Bottom line?
I'd say it was a mediocre, like, serviceable story.
You going to pick up the third issue?
I feel like I have to just to see if...
I'm relying you completely to tell me what's going on.
Yeah, I'm going to pick it up just to see if the story keeps going down the...
And there's still
are we or are we not going to actually bring these characters back?
And there's still that Stephanie Hans cover that we gave the cover of the week a few weeks ago.
Right.
That I'm still trying to find. I promise you, I want to buy it because I like the artwork. I just can't find it.
Yeah, still looking for it.
It sold out pretty quick. So now let's get into the news. First up, Action Comics number 1000 will feature a new redesign for Superman, featuring the modern look, I should say, but with the red underwear. Woo! Okay.
Because what we understood was people want the old one, but new. Wait a minute.
And Jim Lee made the new cover design. So,
of course he did, because he's DC's darling.
For good reason. I'm not the biggest Superman guy. I love Superman, but I'm not the biggest Superman guy. So I didn't care when he had blue pants. I thought it made him more relatable and likable and more.
Like, oh, it's just pants.
I was like, okay, kids will actually like him now because he's not this goofy fucking red underwear.
He's not the underpants on the outside.
But apparently I was wrong because the Superman fanboys got all pissed because the new 52 Superman wasn't just a Boy Scout in every single comic. He actually was angry sometimes and disappointing sometimes, and sometimes he fell short. But apparently that's not the Superman we love. We want the Christopher Reeves red tight underwear goody two shoes boy of steel.
Are we going to go the Grant Morrison route and say those are Kryptonian overpants?
Oh God. I
will laugh
I
myself to
love
sleep.
Grant Morrison because he's so crazy, but
Oh, he's nuts.
he's on so many drugs, dude. He just makes up the goofiest fucking shit. in the world.
His run of X-Men was laughable.
If you could read a Claus, his fucking badass, almost barbarian Santa Claus.
Oh yeah.
This dude is so fucking high. And it's good. It's good. It's good to have something different.
Grant Morrison, keep doing drugs.
Although I hated Batman Inc. Fuck that bullshit. Batman Inc. sucks. Both the original and the New 52 one. We don't need that many fucking bat people. In fact, we need less. I'd appreciate it if you just killed everybody who wasn't the original 3 Robins. Maybe Damian. Damian can stay, I guess.
Damian's kind of earned his spot at this
Barbara
point.
Gordon Batgirl. I think that's enough. I think that's more than enough. I don't think we need Batwing. I don't think we need the Signal. I don't think we need all the Batman Inc. bullshit people.
What about Batwoman?
Okay, she can stay. But that's only because she's a fucking badass and she has cool covers.
She's a gun user.
In fact, I wouldn't be that angry if they just let Jason Todd be dead again. That's just me. I know people love Red Hood. And I know I'm completely in the minority there. I liked him better dead.
You could have started an internet fire with that fucking comment of yours.
I thought bringing him back was dumb because it took the dynamic structure of Batman mourning over a lost Robin and threw it in the toilet and flushed it.
Oh no, he's still mourning because
Comic books.
That's not Jason Todd. That's some asshole who came back from the dead. It's not the same. He's the same.
He's totally the same. That's just me. Moving on.
Moving on.
Congrats, Superman fanboys. You are getting the red underpants that you so desired, which I don't think was a big deal in the first place, but okay. Of all things about Superman, it's his underwear we care about. Next up, comic writer Kelly Thompson has just signed an exclusivity deal with Marvel Comics and has been extended on several projects. She is currently working on the run of Hawkeye featuring Kate Bishop and the Rogue and Gambit comic, which you liked. Neither of us liked the Comics of the Week Hawkeye issue because the dialogue was way bad.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's way too...
You
and
like Rogue and Gambit, though, right?
Yeah, Rogue and Gambit is...
She's also writing that, so...
Right, and here's the thing. I've seen the movie Couples Therapy. That's basically what a large chunk of that book is.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wait till issue 2 to see the direction that it really goes from there. But I do have to say that what she's done with Hawkeye... Specifically with the Hawkeye and Hawkeye, it's literally in love with itself. Ironically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little silly.
Like a book that's in love with itself features 2 people who go by the same title character name making out with each other.
Yeah.
What?
I'm not the big like Marvel guy, so that's Emery's job, but it didn't bother me that much. I just thought it was goofy. I was like, okay, this is kind of silly and throw away. Like, okay, I'll forget this tomorrow.
Okay, here's what that was for me, kind of, in minor metaphor. Have you seen or at least heard about the adaptation for the Killing Joke?
Yeah.
The animated version of that?
Yeah. Where Batgirl fucks Batman for no good reason.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going with?
That is the vibe that I got specifically from that cover. I haven't...
Just the cringeworthy.
I haven't read that issue, but it just seems like if that is even a possibility inside the actual book, I don't want to read it.
It just feels incestuous because he trained her, right? Am I wrong? He taught her how to do all that stuff, and she's significantly younger than him.
It manages to feel both incestuous because yes, I'm not sure if that was the case or if she just kind of picked it up while he was gone.
Okay.
But, in either case, it feels both incestuous and masturbatory.
Gross.
Because this is Hawkeye. The idea that you're going to get from this is, at what point does Hawkeye get Hawkeye off? It's like, No. Stop.
Which Hawkeye comes first? Spoiler alert.
Ah!
Hawkeye.
These are not questions that I should have reading a comic book. Or even
right.
thinking about purchasing your comic book.
Yeah.
This was not the way to go.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Next up, the Diamond Awards occurred. If you're not familiar, Diamond Publishing, or excuse me, Diamond Distribution, Comics Distribution. It's yours, by the way.
Yeah. Diamond?
They're responsible for getting all the physical print issues, or at least the vast majority of them, to your local comic book shops. Please support your local comic book shops.
And digital devices.
And every year they have awards for their favorite comics and this and that. And DC pretty much cleaned house. So take that as you will. I looked at some of the nominees, like some of them I was just like, really? That was your pick for best comic of the year? So maybe it's because they don't publish everything, but a few of them I was just like, really? It's like Batman number 27, I think, and stuff like that. Not that they were bad, but it's just like, that's the best one? Really?
Did you guys read Batman White Knight?
So
Or Mr. Miracle? What the? How?
So I don't know. So if you want to
Okay.
look that up, go ahead and look it up. There's a big list of them, and they like awarded statues and stuff. I'm not gonna read them all because there's just a lot. Next up on the news, Seamus, I think it's Deaver, spelled D-V-E-R, who is famous for his work on Castle, has been signed to the upcoming show Titans as a currently unknown character.
Seamus Deaver.
Yeah.
Not familiar.
Now, I have my suspicions. Let me show you a picture of him. I think he looks like a rich billionaire personality from the DC universe.
Which one? Because if the Arrowverse has taught me anything, you those are a dime a dozen at this point.
This is him.
Batman.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I could be completely wrong, could play someone else, but to me, he looks like Batman. Tall, dark, handsome, bright blue eyes.
Is he tall?
Everybody in Hollywood's tall. I have no idea.
It's all about camera angles.
Yeah. But yeah, he looks like a Bruce Wayne to me. So I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up to mentor somebody or something, or put Robin in check during a flashback scene or something.
Yeah. Oh, he's not that tall.
No.
He's like your height.
5'11"?
Oh, he's 5'10".
Oh no. Angles. Platform shoes.
Yeah, I am now retracting my suspicion that he's Batman. With that being said, Michael Keaton pulled that off.
Yeah,
but
I feel like he's probably Bruce Wayne.
probably
He's probably gonna fight with Robin, leading to explaining how he became Nightwing in the first episode or something.
like
Fuck you, Dad.
No, you're gonna stay in here and you're gonna be Robin.
I don't
and
need
you're
your
gonna
trust
do it
fund.
right. Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
do.
go play on the trapeze.
I'm gonna swing.
So
I do what I want.
if you're a Castle fan, look forward to seeing him on the Titan show, or not, because they're putting it on their fucking exclusive digital streaming app for DC digital streaming. It sucks because there's so much going right with the show, and they're just killing their app. They're killing it with this stupid exclusive digital app.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're thinking.
God.
Next up, Black Lightning, the CW television show, has debuted. It's getting good reviews. I haven't watched it. Have you watched it?
I have not watched
I
it.
am like 3 seasons behind on Flash, and I haven't liked Arrow since the beginning, so I haven't watched that. And then I wasn't a big fan of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, but apparently got pretty good ratings for its initial episode. It's a little misleading because the article I said, oh, the highest ratings that the CW DC universe has received in 2 years. And then you look at what the last one was. The last debut that outranked it was DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which has been the most recent debut series.
Right.
So it's not. They're literally
Right.
saying
I was going to say
this one. This one premiered to less than the last one, but still a lot.
I was going to say, what about Supergirl? But then I thought, oh wait,
Yeah,
that
it's not
didn't
a
start
CD.
on
Yeah,
that
it's
didn't
not
start on the
CW.
CW.
So
It's continuing there, but it didn't start there.
it was like political stat finding, where you kind of use the stats that exist to torque the reality and give it the impression of something better than it is.
Yeah, we're going to spin it with the
felt-
narrative that we want.
Yeah, it felt very politician-y.
Ugh. Guys, we do not need to live in the age of spin.
I-
Just be honest.
I like the character of what Black Lightning is. I hate that they have to call him Black Lightning. Couldn't they just call him Lightning?
I will hate that name always and forever.
And based on what I saw of the previews, I really hated the costume design. I think the costume looks goofy as fuck.
The thing that kills me
But
about
it's on CW, so they can probably get away with it. But
right, this is a television budget costume that looks like they're really trying to hide the fact that we have LEDs in this fucking thing.
yeah, to me, it looks like something Snyder would do. It's like super blinged out with glowing CG and just like lights and all this bullshit like all over it. I'm like, can't you just give him a normal costume? It worked great for the Flash and for the Arrow.
Right.
Can't we just have a normal costume?
Right.
You made him so goofy and gaudy, and I don't.
You made him a bright, shining human target.
Yeah.
And you wonder why the first episode is about him basically quitting being Black Lightning. It's like, you gotta quit doing this. I don't know why. They keep hitting me. It's like I take him down, but I take so many hits.
So did you see it?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I just want to put this out there. I'm going to watch it eventually. Is just probably not right now.
Yeah. So if you were looking forward to that, I hope you liked it. Reviews are good, so apparently the writing's good.
Yeah.
We'll see. I just think I wish they would just update the name to the 21st century. Just call him
Please?
Lightning, please. And maybe change his costume, because his costume looks ridiculous.
There are plenty of ways to do a lightning motif and not have him literally glow in the dark.
Yeah. This next one I think you'll be happy about. Amazon has renewed Tick for season 2. And has announced that it will debut in 2019 and will feature 10 more episodes of The Tick. So The Tick, if you're not familiar, is a reboot of the Fox Tick that used to be on TV, and then the cartoon show, and then the comics. So, which is basically like a comical superhero.
Oh, it's the spoof to end all superhero spoofs.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
I'm
I'm pretty sure you feel the same way.
Oh yeah, I have loved this concept since day fucking one. Oh my god.
So if you're a Tick fan, look forward to that. Next up, John Nee has been hired as the new publisher for Marvel Comics following the promotion of Dan Buckley to the president of Marvel Entertainment. His resume includes being DC Comics vice president and president of Wildstorm. Yeah, grifter.
Yeah.
Before its sale to DC Comics. So, if you care about that sort of logistical stuff, John Nee is your new guy at Marvel. Next up, Tom King. This one's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Tom King has announced a new upcoming project called Sanctuary. It will be a hero comic based on the PTSD he witnessed among soldiers during his CIA career. For those of you unfamiliar with Tom King, he has a career in CIA operations or whatever. Don't know to what extent. He could have been a paper pusher, or he could have been a full-blown operative. Who knows? But
yeah.
he was around this stuff, so I'll give him that much credit. Again, I was a veteran too, so I'm pretty familiar with this sort of concept. And I'm a big fan of Tom King because I think he does it appropriately. So I would guess he was some sort of operative at some level.
Oh, yeah.
The comic will feature a program from the Trinity, which provides a support system for superheroes with PTSD and field trauma. King has hinted it will be directly connected to a, quote, crisis. And he emphasized the word crisis. So
Of course he did.
there's a lot of rumors going around that there's going to be another big event coming up, because of course there is. And it seems like they're doing a modern interpretation of Crisis on Infinite Earths, if I had to guess.
You know,
And it looks like instead of Jeff Johns or Scott Snyder this time around for the big event, it's going to be Tom King taking up the reins, which is deserved because he's been writing outstanding stuff.
Yeah, he fucking earned this one.
You know, Grayson was a great book. Hated the premise. Again, I always say this. You know, the advertising campaign, "You don't know Dick," where he's holding a pistol to the. It was just the wrong. It was the wrong character to use, but it was a good book. And then Mr. Miracle, obviously. Great book. A lot of people have been applauding his work on Batman recently.
Yeah.
Once Scott Snyder took off on one of the titles. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of great stuff coming from Tom King, and I feel like he's probably the best writer at DC right now. And that's saying something because he's got Scott Snyder right next to him. He's got Sean Gordon Murphy right next to him.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of great writing. Jeff Lemire and Kyle Higgins. You know, there's a lot of great writers. Unfortunately, they don't have Gail Simone there anymore.
Oh.
But because she wants to do a Marvel comic, Domino. But there were,
if anyone could
DC,
bring something to that, it would be Gail Simone.
And even for Marvel fans, you know, Brian Michael Bendis is there now too. So
oh yeah,
he's got a lot of competition, and for me, he stands out among all of them. And I think this concept is really great. Again, I was an infantryman in the Army, active duty infantryman for, 4 years almost, and the way they talk, the way we operate, the way we, the people I integrated with, the stories I heard from fellow soldiers and stuff like that, everything he writes is very consistent with that pattern when it comes to military stuff and operations and stuff. So he writes sabotage really well, which makes sense with his CIA background. Again, I don't know to what extent he was in the system. He could have been anything from, Secretary A to full-blown, in the field operator, at the highest level. I don't know, but
I like the fact that there's a little bit of mystique about that. It's like we have no idea what role that he played, but he apparently writes from a lot of experience.
Yeah. So from what he was saying in the interview about it, I think you can go to comicbookresource.com for that interview. He was basically alluding that, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman feel like responsibility for the newer heroes, the younger heroes, and want to guide them and help them out after they experience a traumatic event like a crisis.
Right.
And that's going to be his working premise from the book. He hasn't written anything. There's no launch date or anything. He was pitching the title.
Yeah.
As he pitched it to DC before he started working on it. So look forward to that. I'm really excited for it. I think it's a great idea.
See, there is actually a particular crisis that was done very well by really good writer Brad Meltzer. You might have heard of it. Identity Crisis.
Yeah, that was another great one.
Yeah.
Zatanna. That bitch.
Like that entire thing actually made me want to read like the other Crisis books, like Final Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and all that.
Yeah.
Those weren't as good, in my opinion.
I agree.
As Identity Crisis.
Yeah.
But if it's going to involve any kind of crisis, I want it to be something like that, where just like out of nowhere, the actual villain is the Atom's wife? Like, I want something like that where it's like I never see it coming.
Yeah. So look forward to that. Great premise. Again, I love Tom King, and he's doing great work, and I hope he stays with it because he's been awesome. And he doesn't work himself dry. Some writers do that where they write a few books, they get really popular, then they just spread themselves too thin, and then their work starts to degrade over time. Artists too. Artists have that happen to them all the time, where they get really popular for certain works of art, and then they get spread too thin, trying to do too many things for too many people at once, and then it starts to degrade, and you get delays.
Everything starts to suffer as a result of taking on too much.
And it's inevitable. It happens to everybody. It's just a matter of overcoming it when it happens,
Right.
And making sure you don't fall out of phase and, out of touch.
In some cases, maybe enlisting some help.
Yeah. Next up, Shazam has been confirmed for release April 5th, 2019. Woo.
Is this
Just restart the universe, please. You don't get new actors, get new cast if you have to. I don't care. Get new writers. Stop.
Is this the one that famously isn't going to have Black Adam in it?
Yeah.
Because
we're
good
saving
luck, guys.
Black Adam for some other movie.
Good luck.
Probably Suicide Squad 2, apparently. Go fuck yourselves. Whoever's in charge of DCEU, WB products right now, go fuck yourselves.
Eat a dick.
Your sales are going to continue to decline and decline and decline because these movies get progressively worse. And Wonder Woman being the one standout. And even that movie had some issues at the third act that, was very reminiscent of the rest of the universe. I was like, oh no, you fucked up the end. Everything else was great. Why did you do that?
You guys had like a really good idea, and then you DC'd it.
So we know you can make great movies. There's no reason. No reason for this to continue. Just stop. Ben Affleck wants out. Gal Gadot wants out. Henry Cavill doesn't even give a shit and won't shave his mustache. He wants out. Just let him go. Restart.
Here's how we restart. This is how we restart everything.
Don't say Flashpoint.
I'm going to say Flashpoint.
Because I don't want Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller sucks. He's Woody Allen, not Barry Allen. Fuck him.
Okay, see, here's the thing. We need basically a Flashpoint in which we change the Flash. And here's the thing.
There's only two characters in the current DC universe I would keep. That's Aquaman and Cyborg.
Hilariously.
You wouldn't think it, but
Right.
they're the two I like.
Yeah.
Everybody else can go fuck off.
Yeah.
I like Wonder Woman. She's fine. I just don't like what they did with the plot at the end of the movie.
Right. The biggest fucking issue here is that the writing is shit.
It's really bad.
If the writing was actually fucking serviceable, we probably would have had a good Justice League. A Justice League that wasn't fucking super rushed or needed.
And Justice League, again, we beat it up all the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad plot-wise as Man of Steel or BVS. I think BVS is probably the worst of the bunch. I haven't seen Suicide Squad because it's an Academy Award-winning movie. And I haven't gotten around to using your Christmas gift yet.
You're going to watch it.
But for me, BVS was the worst of the bunch. And Man of Steel was a close second. And then Justice League was like, it was fine. It was not good by any stretch of the imagination. It was probably bad by normal movie standards, but by DCEU standards, it was fine.
When you have the one character who actually fucking belongs here give the most sad and sullen booyah that I have ever heard in my fucking life. You need to stop.
You don't like your flaccid booyah? Booyah. So
he couldn't get it up. He couldn't get up the booyah. It hurts.
And our final news item, Teen Titans Go has a movie coming out July 27th, 2018, and I know this is your guilty pleasure, so why don't you talk about your excitement? I haven't watched it, so I don't know.
First of all, let's make a correction here. I feel no guilt about being pleasured by this show at all.
Oh, excuse me. I apologize.
Yeah. Second, I would love to, and I will support this movie so that I can go from a flaccid booyah to a fully erect
booyah, baby.
Engage in booyah. That is what I want. That is what. I'm not going to say Cyborg is booyah, but booyah doesn't mean shit without Cyborg doing it. I mean, ooh. Carrie Payton, I appreciate that you've been putting in time playing King Zeke at The Walking Dead, but we got to bring you back for Cyborg. You're too good.
Now you're a little older, but you'll be okay.
No, he still got it. He still got it.
You think you can pull off teenage Cyborg?
He's been doing it for the last 4 fucking years.
In live action?
Not in live action. No, this is
I'm
all
talking about
animated.
actual.
Oh, and he could
My
still,
apologies.
He could still do it. I don't care what anyone says.
And that, my friends, is the news.
What books are you hitting up this week?
Emery, I thought you'd never ask. I fucked up the second part. Fuck this. All right, we're going on.
All right, but let's move
These
on.
are your new releases for January 24th, 2018. Again, every Wednesday at your local comic book shops or on your digital devices of choice. First up, from DC Comics, we have Action Comics number 996. We have Batgirl number 19. We have Batman Beyond number 16 with a really cool cover. We have Blue Beetle number 17.
Hey!
Can
Can we have a Booster Gold, please?
Well, Booster Gold's in Action Comics right now, so enjoy. We have Demon, Hell is Earth, number 3. We have Detective Comics, number 973. We have Doomsday Clock, number 3. See if we get some context for everything that's been going on. We have Gotham City Garage, number 8. Don't buy this comic, it sucks. And it looks like they're fully going exploitative with the cover work because they know their story is shit.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Hal Jordan in the Green Lantern Corps, number 37. We have Hellblazer, number 18. We have Justice League of America, number 23. Not my Justice League. We have Looney Tunes, number 241. We have Nightwing, The New Order, number 6. We have Raven, Daughter of Darkness, number 1. So she's getting her own book. We have Scooby-Doo Team Up, number 34. We have Suicide Squad, number 34. We have Teen Titans, number 16. We have The Flash, number 39, celebrating its 700th issue. We have The Rough and Ready Show, number 4. We have Wildstorm, number 11.
Ooh.
Featuring Grifter on the cover. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, we have Wonder Woman number 39, which has a really cool variant. Next up, from Marvel Comics, we have Avengers number 677, featuring the movie universe. Quicksilver, it looks like.
No, that is a. This is a post. Let's retcon the origin of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, so they're not mutants.
But he looks exactly like the Marvel movie one that died.
It-
Spoiler alert for a 5-year-old movie.
It's a little different. His costume's purple instead of blue.
Oh, excuse me.
And,
He's still wearing a onesie.
well, yes, but for those of you paying closer attention, you'll see on his chest is the super duper fast forward symbol, since
Really?
he's claiming that, I guess.
Why? Okay.
Because he's fast.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. Next up, we have Avengers Infinity War Prelude number 1. We have Black Panther number 169.
What are you, 12?
Show you my Black Panther. Next up, this is a really inappropriate.
Wait a minute.
This whole episode has been super inappropriate. I apologize if your kids are watching this show this week. Usually we're a little bit more PG.
Little bit.
Not always, but you know.
Not for kids.
Next up, we have Inhumans Judgment Day number 1. We have Legion number 1. We have Luke Cage number 169. We have Marvel 2-in-1 number 2. We have Phoenix Resurrection, the Return of Jean Grey. I'm a 26-year-old man. I can't help myself. We have Star Wars Poe Dameron number 23. We have Thanos number 15. We have The Amazing Spider-Man number 794. We have X-Men Blue number 20. We have X-Men Blue Annual number 1. And that wraps up Marvel Comics. From IDW, we have 30 Days of Night number 2. We have DuckTales
Woo!
number 5. Thanks. I was hoping you would catch on. Sold it.
Yeah, did I stick the landing? Did I stick the landing on that
Oh,
one?
you nailed it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
nailed it. Next up, Gears of War: The Rise of Ram, number 1. Who I think is the main villain from the first game. I don't know. I'm not an Xbox guy, but I played through it, I think.
It's Ram.
About to get rammed.
Oh, shit, boy.
Next up, we have Judge Dredd: The Blessed Earth, number 8. We have Kid Lobotomy, number 4. We have My Little Pony: Legends of Magic, number 10, for all you bronies out there.
Ooh.
Speak about inappropriate. They do some weird stuff with those ponies, man. Next up, Rom and the Micronauts, number 2. We have
Went from Ram to Rom.
We have Star Trek Discovery, number 2, based on the new CBS streaming app show. Talk about trying to kill a franchise.
Yeah, almost immediately. Yeah.
We have The Comic Book History of Comics, Comics for All, number 2, comics. We have The Transformer. Yeah, The Transformers. Didn't expect that. Lost Light, number 13. And that wraps up IDW. From Dynamite Entertainment, we have Agent 47, Birth of Hitman, number 3. We have Betty Page, number 7, with 6 million variants. We have Red Rising, number 1. We have The Shadow, number 6, with 6 million variants. We have Vampirella, number 10, with 6 million variants. From Image Comics, woo! Save us, Image.
Woo!
From
please.
From Black Cloud, From Image, we have Black Cloud, number 7. We have Black Magic, number 10. We have Black Science, number 34. A lot of black issues. Black
So
Cloud,
much darkness.
Black Magic, Black Science.
Is this a black series? Just a series of black?
We have Dissonance, number 1. We have Gasolina, number 5. We have Maestros, number 4.
Oh, shit,
yeah.
boy.
Get hyped. We have Manifest Destiny, number 33. We have a nice surprise here. Monstrous, number 13, which inspired my topic for this week, so stay tuned.
Oh.
Monstrous is, which I can't even remember the last time a Monstrous book got released. It's been a while, man. I don't know if they got delayed. I don't know the story. I could find it, but I don't even know why it's been delayed so long. Next, we got Moonstruck, number 5. We have Postal, number 25. We have Redneck, number 9. We have Regression, number 6. We have Ringside, number 14. We have Sex Criminals, another book I haven't seen too often, number 21, at least recently. I thought it was over. We have Southern Bastards, number 19. And we have Warframe, number 3.
Oh, yeah.
From Boom Studios, we have a new comic to start off, Abbott, number 1. We have Go Power Rangers, number 6.
See, I like how they have a variant with, like, Goldar doing, like, a very Teen Wolf thing.
Yeah. We have Lumberjanes, number 46. We have Steven Universe, number 12. From Dark Horse Comics, we have Department H, number 22. We have Empowered and Sista Spooky's High School Hell, number 2. Yes, Empowered and Sista, Sistah, Spooky's High School Hell, number 2.
Thanks, guys.
What are you doing? Next up, we have Sherlock Frankenstein and the Legion of Evil, number 4. We have Tomb Raider, Survivor's Crusade, number 3. We have Vinegar Teeth, number 1. We have Zodiac Star Force, Cries of the Fire Prince, number 3. From Valiant, we have Ninjak, number 3.
Oh, for real?
We have Exo Manowar, number 11. You know, I've never really understood. Is it Ninjak or Ninja K? It's spelled Ninja K, but everybody calls him Ninjak. Everybody.
You know, that's always going to be the tricky thing because based on how they listed it, it looks like Ninja K. Based on how everyone talks about it, it's Ninjak. Guys, just pick one. Just pick one.
I say just go all in.
Also,
Ninjak.
this is number 3? How many variants for like the last 2 issues have they made?
I'm telling you, man, it's so hard to read the Valiant stuff because everything's a variant and
Ugh.
a reprinting of some sort.
God.
They're struggling over there. I don't know what's going on, man. It sucks because they have cool characters and good stories, but it's just not consistent content.
Yeah.
From Archie Comics, we have Betty and Veronica Vixens, number 3. And we have Jughead, The Hunger, number 3. Or it takes Jughead's lust for hamburgers and apparently makes it into a horror book. That's what it looks like, at least. Next up from Titan Books, we have Doctor Who, The 12th Doctor Adventures, Year 3, number 12. And we have Torchwood, The Calling, number 4. From Oni Press, we have Invader Zim, number 27.
Oh, shit.
Time for the Doom song. And from Vertigo, we have Doom Patrol, number 10. Remember, Vertigo is finally relaunching full bore, so expect a lot of stuff to come from Vertigo in the near future. And another big release we've been looking forward to, Imaginary Fiends, number 3.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Get hyped. Get hyped.
So good.
From Lion Forge Comics, we have Catalyst Prime Incidentals, number 5. From Vault Comics, we have Maxwell's Demons, number 4, and Reactor, number 4. From Aftershocks Comics, we have Backways, number 2. And that is everything coming to your local comic book shops
Please support your local comic book shops.
and digital devices this week. Now it's time to hand out the prestigious, nay life-changing award of cover and variant cover of the week.
Ooh.
Get hyped.
Who gets it this time?
First up, our cover of the week is awarded to an artist I always have trouble overlooking or denying the cover of the week award when I see her work. She's been doing a lot of variants for the Dark Crystal series, The Power of the Dark Crystal or whatever.
Yeah.
But now she's returned home to her best work, which is Monstrous, number 13 from Image, cover by Santa Takeda, who does awesome work. There's not a single issue of this Monstrous book that isn't just outstanding, from cover to the interior illustration all the way through. Just
Cover to cover.
Santa
top to
Takeda's
bottom.
art style is just awesome. It's so unique and so ornate.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just very, very, very cool. And, it was really hard to deny this cover because it's just so neat and it speaks to the world that exists in the Monstrous books. If you haven't been reading the Monstrous books, they took a big break. I don't know what was going on, but this is the first issue back in a long time, starting with a new arc, and it's an oversized issue too. You might, if you have like Comixology Unlimited, I wouldn't be surprised if it's on there, at least the first few issues. Try to read and catch up to this because it's really good work. Both good writing from Marjorie Liu and the art from Santa Takeda. And if you simply want to support really, really good, female creators in the comic book world, they're top choices. Behind Gail Simone, I don't think there's anybody other than Santa Takeda that I would support more.
Oh, yeah.
My dream work, Gail Simone book, illustrated by Santa Takeda. Oh yeah.
Make it happen.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
Make it happen.
So they received our prestigious award of cover of the week. Monstrous number 13 from Image Comics by Santa Takeda. Next up, our variant cover of the week goes to Booms Abbott, number 1 variant cover by Michaela Dawn.
Ooh.
Now, this is a book that we will be able to review.
Yes, because it's the number 1.
It's the first issue, which is very convenient. But as you know, variants tend to occur with the first issue. So
yes,
it makes sense. This cover is really good. It's really eye-popping. I think it's going to stand out on the sales rack immediately.
Oh, yeah.
It shows the main character. This book written by Saladin Ahmed and Sami Kavela. excuse me, illustrated by Sammy Cavella, and the cover by Michaela Dawn. The cover just expresses so much, like we say for a lot of these covers.
Yeah. Given the description of this book, it definitely gives off the kind of like a different kind of approach to a Hellblazer type story with a different kind of lead antagonist, but they still keep the elements of the protagonist that I like.
Yeah.
It's just like they've been through some shit, they're hard-boiled, and they're... From the cover, you can already see this is a person who's not going to take anyone's shit.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and just read the description. So
Oh, yeah.
if you want to, you can pick it up and read it with us, because I have a feeling we're going to like it. Unless the writing is just atrocious or something. We'll see. Hugo Award-nominated novelist Saladin Ahmed from Black Bolt and artist Sammy Cavella from Beautiful Canvas present one woman's search for the truth that destroyed her family. Hard-nosed, chain-smoking tabloid reporter Elena Abbott investigates a series of grisly crimes that the police have ignored. Crimes she knows to be the work of dark occult forces. Forces that took her husband away from her. Forces she has sworn to destroy. So, I think it's going to be cool. I'm interested. Hopefully, my expectations don't lead to a letdown. And then Monstrous, I already know from prior experience, Monstrous is a great book. Yeah, I'm not fully caught up on it because it's going to be my topic. But they kept taking breaks during that series, and it just... Eventually, I'd forget that it even existed, because I was stuck in a storyline and didn't get any kind of convoluted because of delays and other stuff. So, I guess eventually they did finish the line because obviously they're starting a new arc with number 13. I think I left off somewhere around like 6 or 7, somewhere around there. So
a little bit to catch up on.
I'll see if I can catch up on it and give you a did the content match the drapes segment for next week for Monstrous. So, congratulations once again to Santa Takeda for Monstrous number 13 and Michaela Dawn for the variant of Abbott number 1 from Boom Studios. And now, for our new friends out there, this is the part of the show where we each discuss a topic of our choosing about the world of comic books. Emery, what is your topic?
This is a topic that has actually been... No, I probably say this about a lot of topics that I bring up, but this is one that's been brewing in my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
For I think the better part of a couple of years. As you know, Marvel and Marvel Studios have made a name for themselves, a name that, for the most part, has led to, some quality entertainment that you could expect at the movies. But there's something that's been something of a growing concern as time goes on and as the availability becomes more and more apparent to this. Advanced tickets. This is the kind of practice that it just reeks of we are drunk off our own success and have no worries at all that this movie is going to do well. Now, I understand that they've earned that, but there's something about the concept, the practice of allowing people to purchase tickets in advance to a movie they haven't seen yet.
Now, how is this any different than pre-orders for a video game or a book or, any other type of content, in your opinion?
It's not. And I'll tell you why. It is actually the exact same as pre-ordering a game. You are paying for something that you have no frame of reference for or have any experience with as of yet. Mm-hmm. Like, you are going into that purchase completely trusting that you are going to get a competently made product. And I've done that before. Specifically with the game Final Fantasy 15. if we ever do a video game channel, which I'm not going to say the name of it on there because I don't want anyone to steal it, but that is a topic that I would totally bring up. The concept of pre-ordering games and basically guaranteeing these companies money for something that may or may not be worth your money.
See, for me, there's one difference, and I don't think it justifies it. I think the whole pre-order culture in general, whether it's for music or books or video games or movies, I think it's all garbage, and it shouldn't have. The whole reason it exists is so that publishers and distributors can get an idea of how successful it's going to be.
Right.
And order the appropriate amount or whatever else, to supplement it. Which is understandable, but I think it's very predatory.
It is very predatory.
The difference between current movies and, say, a video game is that with a video game, when you pre-order, they usually reward you with something for having your faith in them. They usually give you some kind of incentive, or they give you like some of the DLC for free, or give you some extra hats to put on your character. I don't care.
They give you something to make your buying it before it's ready for you. They're making
more palatable.
Yeah, they're trying to make that idea seem worthwhile to you.
Yeah. With movies, with a video game, you're probably, at the minimum getting 10 hours of content. Even if it's not great content, you're getting a significant chunk of content.
Half of that if it's the Order 1886.
Yeah. But it was pretty. But with a movie, you're getting hour 45 minutes to 2.5 hours with, in the case of like Star Wars, of content. Short term, one viewership, where a video game, you can put it back in whenever you want. With a book, you can open it up again, and whenever you want, you own it. CD, you can pop it in your CD player whenever you want and play it again. Whereas a movie, the downside, it seems much lower for a pre-order if you go see these movies before the review is out and before you get your friends' opinions or whatever else. And then if you do commit to this pre-order, you don't get any extra benefits. You don't get like free popcorn or anything. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. So it's just, I think it's especially gross and especially predatory. And again, it's because these companies don't want to pay, polling audiences to get an idea of how their movie's going to be received. Instead, they'd rather get the pre-orders to see how well the sales are going to do based on the pre-orders.
Specifically in terms of Marvel movies, since bar none, Marvel movies are the hottest, largest, most lucrative in all of movie entertainment right now. Mm-hmm. No one makes as much money as Marvel Studios.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. I don't agree with this personally, but I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
A lot of these movies that have the kind of pre-order sales are usually the big ticket items, like Star Wars, Marvel movies, DC movies probably in the future. Please don't. These kind of big ticket items that they know they're going to sell, the Harry Potter stuff, significant numbers with. Devil's advocate, most people already know if they're going to see this movie, regardless of whether it's good or bad, because they want to know what happens next in the storyline. Star Wars The Last Jedi is a perfect example of this. Even if I had known The Last Jedi was bad before seeing it, I probably still would have saw it in theaters, just because I want to get my own opinion and see what happened to Luke. And just, I'm not even the biggest Star Wars guy, but I got to know what happened,
Right. It's like
and
you already invested in episode 7.
Yeah.
You want to see what happens in
and with
episode
discussional culture that we have with podcasts and YouTube channels and pop-up ads on your Facebook account that you think about something and it fucking pops up on your Facebook,
8. Google's always watching.
Fucking creepy, man. Not a conspiracy theorist, but damn.
I'm not wrong.
But, you, for the most part, if you're the type of guy that's like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, I'm gonna go see The Last Jedi. I know without a doubt I'm gonna see The Last Jedi, even if everybody and their mother tells me it's bad. I'm gonna go see it because I want to see what happens in this universe, and I want to see why they think it's bad, so I can talk about it, and I don't have to worry about avoiding spoilers for a year before the DVD or Blu-ray comes out, and I can watch it on a cheaper,
Right.
cheaper way, or on downloadable content or something, And maybe there's some, there's a piracy culture. I think it's hard to avoid. Don't pirate anything, comic books especially.
Oh, yeah.
Please don't
yeah.
pirate this stuff, because the creators deserve some compensation for the work they do, even when it's, even when they stumble, they worked hard on it. And if you consumed it, they deserve something for that.
Right. That is one thing that I definitely want to discourage. Like, if you are interested in some form of entertainment, if you pirate it, you are undercutting the entire purpose for that person creating that content. Every time that you pirate something, you are unfortunately giving them incentive to not make more.
So I think that's kind of what happens sometimes, especially for the younger people, like even younger than us,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just like wait maybe the first day for the review, and then if the review's bad or something, they'll pirate it or something, and on some kind of downloadable stream forum or something.
Yeah.
X-Men
Origins
watch the shaky
Wolverine.
cam version.
X-Men Origins Wolverine was probably the most notoriously victimized movie behind the pirating culture. And that movie suffered tremendously for that. Now, mind you, regardless of whether or not it was good or bad, it was bad. But if you were going to watch it, they deserved to be compensated for your viewership. That is how that works.
So I think there are properties out there where you just know, and like if you pre-order a movie ticket or something because you want an exclusive front row seat or something to this franchise, even though you don't know if the movie's going to be bad or good or whatever, you're not a bad person for doing that or anything,
right.
It's
like
you know yourself better than we know you.
Right. I think the crux here is not where we place the customer in this, but this is about examining like the practice of this.
I think
the culture that's basically resulted from this.
Yeah,
is like
exactly.
This is the kind of practice that makes it so that marketing companies, bigger companies that like do all of their own marketing, Disney, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
When they do this more and more often and more frequent, this could in the future lead to some places not getting that movie, or places like having that movie pulled because like they're not getting the advanced tickets that they were expecting.
Yeah, I think it feels gross, and it is a predatory practice by businesses, especially in the case of movies, just because you don't get that extra incentive whatsoever.
No, it's like your incentive is to make sure that you have a seat and that you don't miss out, I guess.
Yeah. If you're like a premiere type guy and you want that premiere movie experience or whatever, I'm happy for you. But
more power to
I've
you.
never been to a premiere where I had to pre-order a ticket to get a seat. I was almost always able to get a premiere seat ticket,
right,
without issue. And that includes the Star Wars movies and the Marvel movies and the Nolan Batman movies.
Right.
I saw The Dark Knight in theaters like 5 times, including the premiere. And
I saw it 3 times.
And every time I had no problem getting a ticket. None at all.
Oh, yeah.
Just don't show up at the last minute and you'll get a ticket. So for me, it seems especially gross and predatory. And, to me, it seems more like they're just assuring that they get your ticket sale.
Yeah.
So if something happens to you, you get sick or you die or, any number of things before the movie's released, they still have your money. Fuck off.
Yeah.
So
and here's the other thing, the other facet to this whole thing is that when you have advanced tickets being purchased or having been made available, the results of how many that you purchase could end up maybe changing some of the narrative around the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's going to be like the biggest blockbuster, the best one of all time, expected to
that's awful.
like take
It's been I think Star Wars: The Last Jedi is probably the most obvious example of this.
Yeah.
Where the hype leading up to this movie, this is probably the most dangerous time for any kind of a consumer of big, like, popular content.
Yeah.
Because the hype machine on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these social networks and BuzzFeed and Huffington Post and
literally a barrage.
And then you have
of
TV
things,
commercials, and it just nothing is advertised like it used to be, where they just tried to earn your viewership with a few trailers and whatever else. Now they assault you with paid-for advertised reviews and previews where people just bullshit.
Right.
And
yeah.
go, oh, this is the best Star Wars ever. I can't believe they did. Oh, it's so great. Wait till you see it. Blah, blah. You got to see it. It's so great. And now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like that South Park episode where you couldn't even tell what the advertisement was anymore. And then the little girl turned out to be the advertisement too. Stan, I think it was Stan or Kyle's girlfriend or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's really like getting close to that point where you really can't trust anything that comes out prior to the movie. Anything.
Yeah.
Because it's all bullshit until you actually see the movie. And then it's kind of like a self-feeding system, because you go into this movie with these expectations that, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. This personality I follow on YouTube or on this writer for whatever, news company or whatever said this was the best whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then you see it and you're like, okay, that was a little weird, but this is great. This is great. It kind of feeds into itself. It's like a constant hype machine. And then you walk out of the theater and you're like, man, there's a lot of problems with that movie.
Yeah.
And then you go read the spoiler review from that famous personality or whatever, and they tear the fucking shit apart. But prior to the movie, they were loving it. It was the greatest thing ever.
Right. That's how you can tell the difference between a paid reviewer versus an unpaid reviewer.
I mean, it's not even that simple anymore. It's really not.
It's unfortunately becoming a bit more muddled, but this is the thing that scares me most, is that you can have people like that on the internet telling you this is a great movie, and then a couple days later pointing out here are all the problems that I have with it. Are you sure that you didn't have these problems immediately?
Yeah.
And just didn't want to say it?
Yeah.
It's like credibility. Credibility is slowly being eroded away.
I wouldn't even say slowly. I think it's gone.
Yeah. Fucking Rotten Tomatoes gave Star Wars: The Last Jedi a score in the 90s. That was for like all of the people who are directly with Rotten Tomatoes. The users.
You're putting the plot of this movie next to things like The Godfather.
Apparently.
The Dark Knight.
It's just fucking sad. This is no. This is what I would have said had I seen it and worked for Rotten Tomatoes and didn't have to worry about losing my job. No fucking.
I mean, we've already talked about in the past about some bad business practices where Disney, just because of how powerful they are, started banning reviewers that gave them less than desirable accolades.
Right.
Even ones that gave them average grades. If they weren't incredible 8, 9, 10 high tier score grades, they were banning them. And once that happens to you, once you're banned from press events and all these things, you're not valued to a company as a reporter anymore.
Right.
Because your credentials are gone. So what are they going to do? They're going to lay you off. You're gone. And that's
if
that's
you
happened.
Can't get into the spots where we need you to do your job and report on this thing.
Yeah.
Then you're no good.
Now, I'm not saying that it's worse than it's ever been. There's always been times, in the past where something like this has occurred, but never on this scale, where it's literally on your phone right in front of your face every 10 minutes. It's on your computer. It's on your television. It's on the billboards you see as you drive around. It's the fake hype machine. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but to quote our president, fake news.
Ooh.
Now, in the context of our president, ridiculous and stupid and silly. In the context,
are you kidding? He's a very stable genius. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's like really smart. But in the context of, oh my god, in the context of popular media,
yeah,
where there really isn't any kind of fallout if you bullshit people or lie to people, the only thing you get is more sales.
Yeah,
more initial launch sales. It is a little bit gross and disgusting, and I don't even know what the solution is. I don't know how you prevent this in the digital era.
Right. This doesn't seem like the thing that can be prevented more than it can be outed, as it were. It definitely seems like the type of situation where, in order to further what the narrative should be around these movies, which should be like an honest, unbiased, unpaid review, and by that I mean unpaid from, like, you're not receiving money from the company who put the movie out, because there's always going to be confirmation bias there.
Yeah.
There needs to be some sort of accountability where you're having multiple people review this thing, so that you can get a plethora of different ideas about the thing that they just watched, like problems, different points of view, like how some things work to one person and didn't to others. That's, I think, the only route that I think we could take in the immediate future. But there needs to be some kind of oversight as far as like reporting goes.
Well, that's the thing. Like, systems like Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, so Metacritic, thank you.
Yeah.
Metacritic more for video games, Rotten Tomatoes more for movies, but
yeah,
they do both. That's what their role is supposed to be. Their role is supposed to be a check on things, and that's why they have like viewer reviews on the side. The problem is that you can't even trust the reviewer reviews from everyday people,
right?
Because people will create multiple accounts to boost a movie they think is unfairly admonished, and fake accounts to trash a movie they think is unfairly boosted,
right?
To try to counteract the culture. And then there's, of course, I guarantee you there's companies that pay people to make bots.
Oh, I'm
sure. To keep them a constant stream of automated, boosting reviews that are higher.
Yeah.
So even the normal everyday person reviews are bullshit. It's really it sucks, but it's true.
Yeah.
In the modern era, it's so easy, for people to just purchase bots to do the dirty work for you.
Right.
It's so easy for people to just make multiple accounts, with slightly different variations of the same fucking email, and
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of kills me about this entire thing. Going back to all of that is, at the end of the day, opinions are subjective. But those tickets are still more than $10 fucking bucks.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, and it's because of those prices that we look to reviewers to maybe either justify our decision to either do it or not, or to maybe, get some idea as to what I can expect as far as like the type of movie I'm going into.
Yeah.
When that gets tainted and further biased by buying out these reviewers from the movie company, it throws what was the original intent of things like Rotten Tomatoes into complete fucking chaos.
And I think it sucks, especially for a smaller company. Now that it's always harder for a smaller company or independent filmmaker or whatever, but they just get so overshadowed by the hype machine. You know? the hype machine for these, big company movies just blows up. I mean, even movies like Baby Driver and stuff like that, which, were pretty solid movies. Like, even stuff like that just gets a disproportionate amount of hype, prior to the movie coming out, just because these media machines just churn it out, on Facebook ads and Twitter ads, and you can't even tell it's an advertisement because it looks just like some reviewer saying, "Oh, this movie's so great, can't wait to see it. You gotta see it." Blah blah blah.
Right.
I saw a secret screening of this scene, and it was one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen in cinema history. That sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and it's everywhere. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter. It's on Instagram. It's everywhere. You can't avoid it, and I just don't. I don't know what you do about it. I really don't.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good time to jump into our next topic here.
Oh yeah.
My topic, as I alluded to, is about how to get back into a series you dropped and how to select series, that you've dropped in the past, either because it had a delay or you just got busy for a moment or didn't have cash for the week that it came out and forgot about it or whatever. Several things happen. For me, the most common reason I drop something is because of delays.
Yeah.
Some big examples I can think of are Witches from Scott Snyder. Obviously, he was shuffling between several different projects at the time because he was the big name for DC at the time.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But Witches I really liked. There wasn't anything wrong with the quality, but after I think like issue 4 or 5 or something, it just kind of dropped off a cliff, and I was just like, not in quality. It just disappeared.
Like, where the hell did it go?
I couldn't find any explanation, no announcements that it had been delayed, and I had no idea what happened. And I guess I guess it got finished eventually, but I never saw it.
Oh. Yeah.
Another big one is Monstrous, which we talked about earlier. Monstrous, good series, great artwork especially, and after a few issues, it just stopped appearing on the shelves, and I was just like, "Well, what's going on? Is there a delay? Is there
what happened to it?
Was the artist stretched too far because it's so ornate and so well detailed and stuff? That stuff happens. Sometimes it's a publishing issue, and when that happens, not intentionally, but I forget. I forget that I was reading that comic, and then when I finally do go back to try to pick it up or whatever, I'm like, man, I don't remember any of these characters. I don't remember what was going on here. I don't know what the fuck to do.
Right.
And I feel
delays definitely help with that feeling.
Yeah. I feel like that happens with a lot of comics just because of their nature. You usually get one a month for a storyline,
Yeah.
And a month doesn't seem like that long, but it's a long time to, not get any new story details or keep that memory fresh, because then you're just like, oh, who's this guy again? What was going on, this issue? So that the issues really have to emphasize like what happened at the very end, so that you remember that key moment at the end or that key moment at the beginning or whatever, to get you started. So there's a lot of issues with falling off comics. I hate to do this because, like a lot of TV shows today, it causes, the creators to struggle a little bit at the beginning. But I like for a few issues to stack up a little bit, and then I tackle a handful of issues,
Yeah.
A lot of people do that with volumes, they'll wait until the first volume's out before they even do anything with it. But by then, the comic's usually canceled if it didn't get the ratings, so that's the drawback.
Right. Yeah, I actually know several people who really don't like investing in the issue to issue, and they more like waiting for a complete story.
Yeah.
Which, while it sounds like a good idea, it because of the nature of how the comic book industry works, that's how a lot of books end up getting canceled.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of really good books. And I think that happened a lot, especially in New 52, because there's so many titles that people just didn't have the time to get around to all of them.
Right. There were a lot.
So people read the main ones, and then some got like bad press because they didn't like that Superman wasn't wearing his red undies anymore, stuff like that.
Yeah, that came back.
And then a lot of really good titles that were on the side got canceled just because of sales, even though they were critically well received and were really good. And a lot of that just tends to over proliferation and people wanting to just wait it out and get the first and second volume or whatever, and then by then it was canceled. They're like, well, fuck this.
Could you imagine reading an entire like Forever Evil collection?
That's my biggest problem with events. There's always there's always a million tie-in comics, that you need for context for what the side characters are doing in the main storyline, and then the main storyline is so convoluted without the tie-in comics on the side too. So it's
right. It's like making allusions to these other things that you need to buy in order for the story to make sense.
Yeah. So there's several reasons why I drop off comics, but the most common one for me is just delays without explanation. I mean, even if they do explain it, sometimes the delay's so long I just forget,
Yeah.
I was just wondering, maybe we could discuss when we do get back into books, how we do it.
Right.
Do we go back and read from issue 1 and catch back up and re-educate ourselves? Or do you just jump in where you think you left off, kind of guesstimate where you left off and jump in? Or, how do you handle these things?
As far as jumping into a series after I've either left it or forgotten about it or what have you, usually the approach that I take is I look for any kind of volumes or anything like that so that I can go completely back through the thing, because like there's one thing that I've never really liked about being like, there are some cases where I feel like I'm forced to drop off because life happens, like anything can come into your life or disrupt things in your life to where it's like you can't get the issue that time.
Yeah. Your car breaks down, you lose your job, you have a kid, whatever.
Yeah, any number of things. This would be the one time when I would either wait for a volume or see if I can find the back issues, which looking for the back issues has always been kind of an elusive thing for me.
Yeah. For me, if I'm completely honest,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of enjoy it. Like it's just fun for me to go to like comic shop, have an excuse to go from comic shop to comic shop to comic shop, and just like
trying to find that one issue,
completely explore their back catalog. It feels like being a detective or something. You're just like,
like
maybe they sorted it wrong. Oh, they did sort it wrong. Oh, here's something, and then you find that gem. Like I know the way.
Thank you, Uganda Knuckles. We call that the hunt.
But it's for me, I have trouble with volumes as a collector, because volumes don't typically hold their value very well, if at all.
Right.
Yeah, you'll be able to resell it to like a bookstore or something for half the price of what it was,
if you're lucky.
But it's not going to retain that original value, and it's certainly not going to gain value.
Oh no.
Even the most famous things in volume form typically don't have any value whatsoever.
No, the value is just like a base price. This is what you pay for.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that money back.
Which, if you're just collecting something because you really enjoy the story and the artwork and nothing else, you can sacrifice the individual cover arts and you can sacrifice the value because you're not going to resell it. More power to you. Great.
Yeah.
But for me, as a person that does collect these things and does care somewhat about their condition and value and stuff, I always go for the single issues, especially particularly for stuff that has really good cover art and stuff that I think will be collectible. There's a lot of good storylines out there that I enjoy, but the cover art wasn't particularly great, and I didn't think it was going to be like legacy building or anything
Right.
that top tier, collectible level. So I didn't feel bad about getting a volume or, you know, reading a collected version on Comixology or something. So for me, a lot of times I try to seek out these back issues, like for this Sacred Creatures comic that I just read. I'm gonna have to try to find the second and third issues somewhere, which might be difficult.
Yeah, someone's got them.
But I do enjoy the hunt. It is a little entertaining for me. It's I don't know. I assume it's like a lot of people with shopping, they like window shopping. They like the thrill of going from store to store and seeing the new stuff. Well, for me, it's with comics. I like going from store to store, seeing the different, people that work there, obviously, and then, seeing the new environment and looking through their back catalog, see what little treasures they have that I can complete parts of my collection with. But I actually feel like almost the anxiety of how much work I'm going to have to do to catch back up in a book discourages me more than anything. Like I have a ton of just DC lines and runs, that I still haven't finished catching up on and reading, Batman Eternal and Future's End and obviously this Dark Knight's Metal thing I don't want to read, and I never finished Future's End, and then there's the Dark Side Wars that are apparently important to what happened with Convergence and everything, or post-Convergence. So there's a lot of things that I have to read and catch up on, and a lot of them I started, but then, I got busy or something happened, and then I didn't get back to it, and now, like, I don't even remember what the fuck was going on in these books for some of them, and I'm like, I don't want to read that many issues, because, like, for Batman Eternal, I was, like, on issue, like, 40-something, and there's 52 issues, and I'm like, I'm going to have to reread all 40 issues, and I have them. I have them physically, but it's just, it's such a pain in the butt, and it's so discouraging.
Yeah.
There's another title, Nailbiter, which I have the first issue signed there by the creators. I really loved it when it first came out, but then I ran into some life stuff, and because of that, I didn't keep up with it. And then once the life stuff was over and I got back into comics, the run was pretty much over. Or if it's not, I haven't seen it on shelves in a long time. So
be worth investigating.
It was actually me testing out Comixology Unlimited that got me back into it to catch up to where I was, and now I'm seeking the last sets of comics that came from it to try to complete it. And that's all thanks to having a cheap subscription to Comixology Unlimited. So
I
was able to catch back up with my Nailbiter comics and whatever. Lock and Key is another one where I started it, enjoyed it, but then I kind of fell off of it for a second or two and forgot about it. And then when I thought about going back to it, I was like, but there's so much new stuff, and it's going to be such a pain in the ass to find these comics again and reread it all. So it's tough, and I would like to give our listeners and watchers like some kind of really good advice. I think a lot of it comes down to time. How long have you been away from this comic? If it was a delay, how long was the delay? And if it was significant, hopefully you own it physically so you can reread it and catch back up. Maybe you can look up like synopsises, online somewhere. I don't really know of a good place to go for that, but
synopses.
Yeah.
Synopsi. Synoptipus.
One's got to be right.
I think the other big factor going into like getting back into like a line of comics that have just completely dropped off for you, investment. How much do you care about either the story or the artwork or just collecting the whole thing?
Yeah. And with Monstrous, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to go back and reread everything that I can and try to get back caught up to where it was. But I don't even remember it ending. Like, same with Witches. I don't even remember an announcement happening that it was the last issue. Like, it just disappeared, and I stopped seeing it on shelves. And
I think that's going to be the thing, at least as for me, that determines whether or not if it drops off, whether or not I feel like ever looking at it again.
Yeah. So for me, my biggest recommendation to creators that want people to stick with their stories and their books, do your best not to have delays.
Consistency.
And like if it's a week delay, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm talking like 2-month delays, 3-month delays.
Yeah.
One of my favorite books is Leda Mechanica from Joe Benitez. He does awesome art, beautiful artwork. The stories are fun and interesting. It's in like a steampunk aesthetic. You know, it's just fun. It's a feast for the eyes, and it's fun to read the stories and stuff. But he's so slow. These books come out like a new one every 4 months if you're lucky. And they come out so slowly, and I understand, you know, Benitez Productions, it's his own company, it's his own line, and I'm sure he works his ass off to get that much out, you know. But it seems like there's just a delay all the time.
Always a delay.
And you never know when the next issue's coming. And by the time the new issue comes out, I still buy them because I love the covers, but it's just, you're like, what am I supposed to do? I don't want to go back and reread all of this again so I can read this one issue again and then wait another 4 months again.
Yeah, that is...
So I love Joe Benitez, but he's so bad about just dropping off the face of the planet. And
there's actually a story... I'm not sure if you remember the Ultimate Marvel Universe being a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk about delays? Let me tell you something about Ultimate Wolverine versus the Hulk.
Oh, buddy.
I think we got about 2 issues in before we realized that this guy, Damon Lindelof, the writer of Lost, was still writing Lost.
And that's what I'm saying with a lot of these projects. It's because they're stretched too thin. They get popular, and they want to do something other than their mainstream books that they're doing, whether it's Batman or Superman or Spider-Man or, you know, Miss Marvel, whatever.
Yeah.
They want to branch out and do, you know, an Image book or a Vertigo book or whatever.
Right.
So they reach out and they do, you know, American Vampire, and they do witches and whatever else, and then they get stretched way too thin, and then delays happen, and you're just like, as a reader, you're like, where the fuck is it?
This one thing that I wanted.
So,
yeah, when when the writer of your comic also is in the middle of writing a television series,
yeah,
yeah, good luck.
And sometimes it's the artist too. I know I've seen it, you know, on artists' Twitter accounts that I've followed over the years. You know, sometimes they send out an apology and they're like, "I'm sorry, but I've been working morning, day, and night trying to get these panels done, and you know, some of them were a little more troublesome than I thought they were going to be, and it took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to take, you know, and those sorts of things. And I had to make some edits and corrections because we changed the story halfway through the month, you know. So that stuff happens, and you know, it's not exclusively on one or the other. Sometimes it's even production. Sometimes it's just, oh, the print got fucked up. Like not too long ago, we had the Luke Cage featuring like Doctor Strange panels or something on accident.
Yeah.
So they had to
2 Marvel titles got like half swapped. It was so weird.
And so they had to redo a bunch of them and send out refunds, and you know, stuff like that happens. It's a part of the business, unfortunately.
Yeah. Although if anyone out there has both copies where they were both the fuck ups, please let me know. I really want those.
I'm sure they'll be collectible, yeah. I think there's an easy solution to a lot of this. I know a lot of comic companies don't want to hear it. A lot of creators don't want to hear it. I think it's the same solution that I've had for a lot of movies. Maybe write everything and prepare everything for release before you release it. Like, instead of, you know, the creative equivalent of living paycheck to paycheck,
right,
where you
are just creating like whatever you can think up for that month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I think comic companies should do is, have whatever creators and artists pitch them their idea, and you go, okay, sounds good. We'll give you a year. Give me 12 issues. They'll be like, all right. We'll say, once you have those 12 issues, we'll release them month to month, whatever, and then we'll pay you your compensation based on that, and we'll pay you the upfront fee that you were already going to get anyway. You know? So here you go. Make all 12 issues for us, and then when we're done, we'll announce it and have a big press release, and we'll start the run. But instead, we have these perpetual week to week things and last minute things. Brian Bendis just joined DC, and he's already writing a story for the Action Comics number 1000.
Yeah,
That's not a lot of time. So,
yeah, I think that is a very special and unique approach to it, mostly because how things are run. From what I remember, it's usually about the first 3 issues that they have planned out, and then from there, you keep writing, and depending on how well it's selling, at some point, something that you've already written just doesn't get drawn.
Well, that's another big thing. If you do that, not only is the series committed to having a year run or 6-issue run or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But it gives the company, the publisher, enough time to evaluate, all right, how is this selling this half of the year? You will know months before the last issue whether it's worth your time or not.
Right.
And you can order more long ahead of time and give the creator long enough warning to be like, okay, we want to keep this going, so write us another 12 issues. Write us another, create us another 6 issues. This is your only project. Get it done for us, and then you can do whatever,
Yeah.
That's what I think they should do. Same with the movies, the DC movies. They keep fucking, oh, we'll work it out when it approaches, Star Wars. Instead of just having J.J. Abrams plan out the whole series, we're going to have J.J. do the first one, and then he's going to pitch it off to Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson's going to do his thing, and then a third director's going to do his thing. But no, wait, he's dropping out because he didn't like Ryan Johnson's approach. So now we're fucked. Oh, now J.J. Abrams, come back in and try to sweep this up a little bit. It's a lot of these creative problems could be solved just by planning everything out ahead of time and committing to it. You know, instead of just spastically going from issue to issue to issue. And I think it's I can't speak from experience, obviously, but I would really love to have a comic book writer in here that has worked in the industry for a bit and ask them, is it a pain in the ass to write these issues, month to month to month, and try to remember what the fuck you already did? Because I think a lot of the flaws with comic books usually comes in the later issues. If it's a year run, usually the problems, it starts off really strong, and then it just gradually declines in quality as the time goes on. Not because the premise was bad or the characters are bad or because the art was bad, but because they're scrambling to try to remember what the fuck happened a year ago.
Right.
And again, these issues happen month to month, and they're working on multiple projects and trying to keep things together. And especially if you're not a very organized writer with bar graphs and charts and stuff, try to keep track of everything, you're gonna end up being redundant. You're gonna end up contradicting earlier material, and a lot of these things, a lot of these problems happen. So, and I think it would solve so many problems. It would prevent delays. And when delays happen, people fall off your books, and your book sales drop, and then your book gets canceled, and you're like, "Fuck! Why did this get canceled? We worked so hard on it. It was such good quality. People loved it at the beginning. Why did people stop buying it? Oh, maybe it's because I had a 2-month delay because instead of making everything ahead of time." We just decided to make it from month to month to month, or 2 months ahead of time, which is not a lot of time, to draw 30 pages of artwork and dialogue and letters and colors and getting the publication requested to the factory so they can print so many millions of issues.
Yeah, it's rare that we get something like the Watchmen level, but the Watchmen is a thing that happened as a serialized comic book. Like in how it is that Alan Moore managed to write a 12-issue masterpiece. I have no idea. I'm really curious as to whether or not he had the whole thing plotted out and then just like started like writing like this part of it's going to be for this issue and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Or if he only planned out like the first 3 and then just started like basically spitballing it from there.
Yeah.
That is I'm really curious.
Now, I hear what you're thinking out there. You're thinking, well, Chris, you stupid ass. If they already made all the material for it before they start releasing it and selling it, why wouldn't they just release it all at once, like Netflix? Why wouldn't they just put it in a big volume and let you consume it immediately, Because it would sustain the industry to continue releasing these single issues and a coherent story. You have the advantage of creating all this content, whether it's 6 issues or 12 issues or whatever, ahead of time, having everything well planned out, well laid out, and you can even test it yourself to see how they flow from issue to issue. Okay, that's where I left off. Pick up this one. Okay, I'm not lost. Everything still rings true. Everything makes sense, blah, 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 blah. That's not something you have with the other issues. Now, yes, you could release it all at once as a volume and just have everybody buy the one volume and binge it and then forget about it. But that leaves the publisher in a hot spot where, they have nothing to release on a week-to-week basis. And that's obviously not going to fly with a lot of these companies. And then on the other end, volumes are expensive, the people aren't going to want to go to their comic shop every week and spend,
like $40 to $50.
Yeah, on 2 or 3 volumes, So, and again, then you're left with a big dry spell where they just did 6 months worth of material and released it all at once, and now you got nothing for 6 months,
right?
Because they got to take another huge span of time to plan out their next 6-month issue or whatever else. So,
right,
I think it's a very easy solution, and you can very easily just cut it up into 6 issues, 7 issues, 8 issues, 12 issues, whatever fits the bill. And still sustain the industry, still keep comic fans happy, but have a clear, coherent storyline that doesn't get delayed and fucked up.
Right. There is also something to take into account to promote the idea of purchasing it like issue to issue, is that sometimes someone's going to catch a mistake. And it is in those instances that having it serialized is to their benefit so that they can, before it goes to print, hopefully fix it.
Yeah.
And then, correct their mistake, send it back to print, and then you get the product that both they're confident of trying to sell you and we're confident in buying.
Yeah. I think another thing to consider, this is just my personal feelings about it, but from time to time, and I think it happens more often than we'd like to admit, particularly on the creative side, I think there's a lot of reacting that happens in the comic book industry, where if something is received poorly initially or something is received like positively initially, they try to reinforce whatever that positive thing was to the nth degree, or they try to, remove that thing they had already committed to and pretend like it didn't happen, those sorts of things. I think it would prevent a lot of that stuff, that reactionary content making, because I think sometimes it hurts like overall arcs, sometimes you paint this character in a, maybe a poor light to begin with for a reason, because you want this character to follow a particular arc. But then when you get a negative reaction because the character is like this or that or whatever, and then you try to fix it to make your publisher happy, because the publisher's like, well, what the fuck? You should have known this was going to be a bad reaction.
Yeah.
I think that's another added benefit, and I think that's a good thing. I think I want to see the original direction of the artist and of the creator the writer. I want to see what their original vision was. I don't want to see a reactionary, altered vision that just progressively gets
Right.
less and less dynamic or less and less honest. I think, and I think even if it, you know, even if it's maybe distasteful or something along those lines, I'd rather they own up to it and just follow through and finish the story. Finish the arc they created for that specific character. Because who knows? The tides change every every week, it seems like nowadays.
Yeah.
Things could change, and people could look at it through a different lens and be like, well, this is really honest sign of this time, and blah 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 blah. We look back at a lot of content, whether it be old superhero movies and old corny superhero TV shows, and we look at the differences between the 30s DC comics where they're kind of dark and Batman has a gun and he's shooting criminals dead, and those sorts of things, and you have this terrifying Joker who's a mass murderer and just wears a smile on his face, and then you look into what followed it, the kind of corny, super conservative, super censored comic books where everybody's hitting each other with boxing gloves and silly things like that, and you got the Boy Wonder and his scaled underpants, those sorts of things, and then you cross over into the Vietnam era where things get dark again and reflect.
Can we just take a moment and, okay, how scaled briefs?
They are essential.
They seem like they would cut you like right at the spot where your leg meets your junk.
Not if you're a circus performer.
Apparently. Fucking circus.
But then it crosses over into the Vietnam era where you get a very,
we're back to the dark,
more sinister world again, a little bit more cynical. And I think a lot of comics, especially right now, where we're, in some ways for good reason, in some ways not really for a good reason, we're very sensitive to everything, and then on the same side of the coin, you have the people that get overly supportive about things that aren't necessarily a good story, aren't good characters, but it meets an ideal agenda, prototype.
Right.
So we're going to applaud it and boast it as this great, wonderful hype thing. And of course, you never know how much of that is genuine and how much of that is just, the companies themselves trying to hype shit, to sell more shit, and I think there's a lot of bullshit out there, as we spoke about during the movie ticket sales segment. But I think if we had a more honest approach, it would hold up to time better. It would stand in a more honest fashion up to scrutiny in the future, and give a more honest picture of our era. And again, every era is kind of remembered, for some kind of distinct feature. And I think if you created those things ahead of time and didn't follow the kind of reactionary pursuit of a storyline or of a comic series, it might give a more clear picture instead of a kind of diluted and wavering thing where we're trying to be overly sensitive and change things drastically as the story goes on because something wasn't received well or something was received well and we want to reinforce it. I don't think there's really been another time in comic books where it was so back and forth, jump from one extreme to the other extreme.
It's like we're riding waves.
Yeah,
at this point.
I think a big example is like the Batgirl kind of issue. We talked about this before, but when they tried to introduce their first trans character or whatever, and they thought they were going to get all the applause like they had been getting in the past for their new changes or updates or whatever, and then they ended up getting the complete opposite when the community was angry that they made a trans character a villain, and they made the trans character wear the same uniform as the main character, and made the trans character into a big stereotype and stuff like that.
Oh.
So that's an example where they were reactionary and they kind of just swept it all under the rug and forgot about the character.
Yeah.
Another example on the opposite side of the spectrum, during the New 52 run of, I think it was Detective Comics. It might have been All-Star Batman. I think it was Detective Comics, though, where they had this supervillain called the White Bunny or something, and it was literally just a Playboy bunny in a mask and a domino mask and a corset, and that was it.
Yeah.
And she was just a blatant, just pornographic kind of eye candy villain that was there and didn't really serve a purpose.
Thanks,
And
guys.
that, as you would expect, received a lot of jokes and kind of clashing from fans. Both on the kind of pushing agenda side and on the like, what the fuck is this side? We're trying to make these respectable, so people can enjoy them. So there are different examples, and again, they just swept them under the rug and just like, oh, this never happened. Don't look over here, look over here, look over here. And I think if it was already established and already laid out, even if you boom or bust, at least you committed, and people can see that as a reflection of what was going on at the time, whether that's good or bad. And I think that's a more honest approach, and I think it's a more interesting approach personally, and especially as a guy who likes history a lot. I like looking back and seeing the context.
Yeah.
Seeing the comics that kind of broke from the mold. You see the 30s are kind of heroes aren't super powered yet. They're just kind of guys with extraordinary abilities that run around with a gun and beat up criminals and beat up those big company enforcers that would go around killing union people, and then you grow into the kind of lighthearted post World War II, where you have the McCarthy era and everything's being censored and anything communist is a threat, and you see that reflected in the comics, and everything's supposed to be innocent and clean, and you have the comics code authority step in, like all these other like regulatory things that happened in the late 40s and 50s. It's a reflection of the times. And then you get into the late 60s, into the early 70s, mid 70s, and you start seeing more female characters popping up. You see Wonder Woman change from the strong, powerful warrior to this like secret spy. Who else has had that happen?
Ooh. Nightwing.
So you think they would have learned from their mistakes, but apparently,
history kind of repeats.
But then during the mid 70s to late 70s, they got really dark and cynical, reflecting, kind of the environment that was surrounding Vietnam and what was going on in the country at the time with the oil crisis and all these different things. And then you go into the 70s where everything's kind of big and bulky and square and
boisterous,
very rich and powerful, and everything's a showing of strength and force, and you see that reflected in the heroes. Wonder Woman is just gigantic, gigantic arms and chests and legs, and then she's wearing the the rib high bodysuit thing, where it shows like her entire midriff all the way down. You can almost see her labia hanging out. She got the big, super curly hair, everywhere, and Superman's got his mullet growing out, and it's a reflection of the times, and not always great, but it reflects the era, and I think it makes sense. And then you get into the 90s where things are kind of lighthearted again and kind of fun and goofy and like all over the place and colorful, and sometimes for better, sometimes for worse.
Sometimes things get like goofy serious.
Yeah.
And that I think is particular to the 90s.
Yeah.
Like kind of like into the Rob Liefeld era where it's like exaggerate. That's a good word for it. It was an exaggerated time where like the dudes were like super like balloon muscly, and everyone had like pointed feet. Yeah. And it's just like that people were like extra tall and got into like these weird poses. It was exaggerated.
And it stood in huge contrast to what happened post 9/11, Post 9/11 books took a dark turn, not unlike the post Vietnam books, where books suddenly became more cynical and more, grounded and realistic and a little bit more, wary of conspiracies and terrorists. I'd never even heard of a terrorist in a comic book, prior to 9/11.
Yeah.
And then it was in every comic book. Terrorists and soldiers and government espionage and all these dark stories about death and loss and reflective books. And
Marvel had a very specific take on it. And by specific, I mean he had something shocking, like actually showing the rubble of 9/11.
Yeah.
And then showing a character like Magneto and like saying something akin to basically not even I'm this fucked up.
Yeah. And I think it's hard for people that are young to imagine, but it was a completely different type of society.
Yeah.
Not only in our art culture, but in our everyday culture before 9/11. Nobody worried about going to the airport prior to 9/11.
Right.
It didn't take you an hour to get through the TSA.
Right.
So they could inspect your underwear and your shoes, and you could, every drink you had, and
it was a more innocent time.
There weren't so many hang-ups about Guantanamo Bay and just all these different things we kind of take for granted today. All this stuff just appeared almost overnight. That's what it felt like. And then it got expanded with Iraq, and then the revelations that we went to Iraq for no reason. We thought there was a reason, but there really wasn't a reason. Apparently this British intelligence agency was just like, we'll say there's a thing and everybody should believe us because we're allies. Now let's go. So and then comics immediately and art culture in general started reflecting that in video games and books and comic books and you name it, where all these stories about corrupt government officials started popping up, and people that are heads of state lying to the public so they could do a certain thing, or and now even in the modern era we're seeing a reflection of our current society. We have a society that is at war, but we've kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
So these wars are going off in the background. We don't really remember because we've been at it for, 2018, 17 years now. So
yeah, that's a pretty long time to just be constantly
in perpetual war. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, things that had taken, kind of a back seat post 2001, post 2003, are now resurging with a vengeance, trying to make up for lost time, like, equal rights. And when I say equal rights, I include like societal norms, societal expectations that aren't necessarily laws, just like expectations for cultural norms,
Right.
Those sorts of things. Accountability for, big, powerful people that take advantage of their position for, sexual endeavors, whatever you want to say. Recognition of income inequalities and all these things, and they're showing up in the books. Fears about global warming, fears about climate shifts and corporations being unregulated, losing the regulations they previously had. These are all things that, for better or worse, are appearing in the comic books. Even that book we were laughing at just completely ruined the book in issue 2 with Dark Fang.
Oh,
With the premise that was finally sold. As goofy as it was, and as much as I didn't like it and probably won't continue reading it, I appreciate it for reflecting what it is, And I hope that the writer just sticks to their guns and just rides it out and finishes it. Because it does reflect concerns of our time and characters of our time, and even the transition of a lot of characters to a more cartoony style, like with Batgirl. I hate the redesign, I really do, but it is in stark contrast to the mid to late 2000s kind of era of dark, seedy, grounded realism,
Right.
and it reflects the kind of more nonchalant, open, children of the post 9/11 era, where they did grow up in this society so much so that they don't even acknowledge that it exists anymore.
Yeah.
Because they don't even remember a time when it wasn't the case, And I think
they have no frame of reference for what things were like before that.
And I think that's true, all the way from the late 1920s, with the birth of Superman, all the way up to today. And it's still going strong. And I'm sure in the 2020s, we'll be seeing another shift and another change in a different direction. And we'll see comics reflect that. And I think if you get everything written, produced, and laid out before, way ahead of time, and just cut it up into sections, it will reflect that much more strongly and in a much more positive way that will be remembered well, and you won't lose your readership if you run into a bump in the road, if somebody gets sick, if somebody has to leave because their family member died, or someone wants to go on vacation, God forbid.
Right.
Yeah, those sorts of things. So I think all those things are out there, and I don't know. I just think there's a lot of advantages to getting things done ahead of time to prevent readership from falling off. And putting that aside, my real solution really is just find a way to catch up. Like Batman Eternal, I'm going to reread the whole thing. Like, the big thing that hung me up was that I did have to wait for every single issue every single week and make sure I was diligent about not missing every single week.
Right.
And getting every issue, and I missed a few, and so that discouraged me from continuing the series. So when I finally went back and got them and found them in other back catalogs and stuff, I didn't want to read them because even though I had the complete set finally, it's just like, oh, now I got to play catch up. I got to remember all the stuff and try to figure it all out. And I feel
I
that
hope you don't feel lost.
Yeah, and that's my big thing with like universes, like the DC universe right now. Convergence just rubbed me so wrong, and I just wasn't interested in what they were doing there, that I dropped off almost all of the main series, pretty much all of them. I can't even think of one I've been reading lately. Yeah, no, I can't think of a single one because they just rubbed me the wrong way, and I got discouraged. And then life stuff happened, and then I got discouraged again. And so, like, even the ones I was trying to stick with, I couldn't stick with. And I come back and I'm like, well, now they're in the 30s, and I'm like, do I really want to read 30 issues of this book series that I'm pretty sure I'm not going to dig that much, just to catch up so I can buy more? It's
somehow get current up to a certain point.
It's the struggle is real, folks. Did you have any more to say on the topic?
Nothing else that I could think of.
Well, with that, I think we'll end the topics for today. I want to thank you all for sticking with us and listening to another episode of Hit the Books Podcast. I think this has been about a mediocre episode.
Mediocre!
Thank you all for sticking with us. If you like what you hear, be sure to hit like and subscribe and follow on your podcast services of choice. Stitcher, iTunes, future SoundCloud, whatever.
YouTube. Check us out at YouTube.
If you can hit like and subscribe, it really does help us out because we're trying to get our subscriptions up to a certain level so we can get our vanity URL on our YouTube channel, and that makes it easier to put it out to people so they don't have to look at, they're on youtube.com/XY $ exclamation point dash 609p @ symbol.
I'm just trying to watch a video. I don't want to do math.
Yeah. So it really does help us out if you can help us out in that way or any way. We really appreciate it. And if you just listen, that's fine too. So, either way, we appreciate you, and we hope that you will return. Remember, you can talk to us on Twitter at HTBVids. You can talk to us on Facebook at facebook.com/hitthebooks. Our website is htbvids.com. Remember, you can check out everything here on our website. If you go to the website, there's buttons for everything. There's a button to go to our YouTube channel. There's a button to go to our Stitcher. There's a button to go to our iTunes feed. There's a button to see all the comics of the week. There's a button to see any written content. It's all there for you. And
just click the button.
Once again, thank you to freshcomics.us, which is our weekly resource to figure out what's coming out. And you can use it too. It's freshcomics.us. And again, there's a button on our website that takes you directly to it. I think that's everything. Is that everything? It's really late. We record these episodes so late. because we get started at like 6, and then usually we get delayed by reading comics, that we didn't have a chance to read during the week.
And yeah, that usually goes until like 8 or 9.
Yeah, and then we do all the show prep with getting all the news organized, and the topics and the covers of the week organized, and
that goes until probably like 11.
Yeah. To give you an example, it's 3:12 a.m. right now. We work, people.
Yeah.
So
hashtag always grinding.
is that a hashtag now?
It will be.
My hashtag's tough nuttin'. TUFNUTN. Hashtag tough nuttin'.
Wait. Hold on.
Leave the intrigue. But seriously, I want to thank you all for sticking with us. Thanks for watching. We will see you next week. I've been your host, Chris Holcomb.
And I'm Emery Saunders.
Thanks for watching. See you next week.
Bye. Bob. You.
Bob.
I'm a number 1. A guy.